Hello, everyone. Welcome to our influencer screening of A Call to Spy. Here we are. All right. I'm Elizabeth Kilpatrick. I'm the VP of Development for the Geena Davis Institute, and we are so grateful to host a discussion today with Sarah Megan Thomas and Lydia Dean Pilcher on their compelling and beautiful film, A Call to Spy. I want to welcome everyone here. Oh, here we go. Our participants are rising. So let's just give it, I'll go over a few of the housekeeping details while people are hopping on. We have a half hour to talk. So if you guys have questions, you can pop them into the Q&A box and we will try to cover those as we're going forward. We have a ASL interpreter on, and if you want to make sure you're in gallery view so you can see her, that would be great. And I think we can go ahead and get started. Thank you both so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
It's the film launched on Friday. It seems like things are going great so far.
Yeah, we're doing really well everywhere.
I think I love this film so much. I think the film itself and the stories of these women would be incredible at any point in time, but there was such resonance for the time we are living in right now as a nation. And just like the power and importance of individual action, it's just such a wonderful film for everyone to see right now. Sarah, what was it about the topic and specifically Virginia Hall that made you want to take this project on?
Yeah, so I always start with a larger genre that I think is commercial and can make my investors a profit, and that I think audiences will love, but that has an angle that's missing with the female lens. So I did know that I wanted to do a spy thriller. I love James Bond for what it is. I love Charlotte Gray, but most spy films, when women are involved, it's a romance, or we're not seeing the nitty gritty work every day of these women spies. And so that's the genre I started digging into. And then when I came across Virginia Hall, who, is the spy that the Nazis dubbed the most dangerous of all, the first woman to work for the CIA, like she's won every award for bravery you can imagine, and realized that there was no feature film made about her, I was shocked. I mean, it was like that discovery with Equity. What? No one's made a Wall Street movie, about women. So that was the genesis for this is a story that just must be told.
And Lydia, what about you? What drew you to this project?
Well, I was really fascinated by the fact that these were three international women, one from Romania who had escaped anti-Semitism there, had worked with the British, another woman who was of Indian descent but had grown up in France, now living in England, and then an American in the middle of all of these three women. The idea that they were from three different places in their world but were coming together and to work for a common mission, but it was a country that wasn't their own, was really interesting, because it signals that they're driven by a moral imperative. They were driven by something that was bigger than themselves, and that was just an amazing landscape to work on.
Sarah, you took on a few different roles in this film, as you do sometimes. You wrote, produced, and starred in the film. What was that like for you?
Chaos.
Ultimate chaos.
No, I'm joking. I mean, this is my third film as a writer, producer, actress with those hats, and I learn more each time. Honestly, we had an amazing crew of strong women on this film that did so much and made the journey as easy as it could be. But learning how to juggle those hats is always the trick, because writing and producing require you to be steps ahead, and planning and thinking and organized, and acting requires you to be in the moment. So balancing those two things is the challenge. But right before I'd go on set, I would listen to Churchill's speeches for about 5 minutes, and that would help me kind of get into the time period and be ready to go.
We have a question from one of our audience members, Virgie Tovar, who has been a panelist for us before. She's curious about whether there was resistance from outside the team to taking on sexism, xenophobia, ableism so head on. I don't see films that take on more than one dimension of women's lives.
I'll let Lydia answer for herself, but for me, no, I didn't receive pushback, and that was really nice.
Yeah, Yeah, I think I felt really supported by people who thought this was a very exciting story to tell, and it was obviously very exciting for women. So we had a lot of really strong and powerful women on our team working on our crew and in our cast. And I think on some of the other areas, I just want to mention that, you know, Sarah and I worked with a group called Respectability, which does work with films and television in terms of portraying people with disabilities. And that was very helpful because there was a huge component of an emotional reality to try to get right. For someone who has a residual limb, who is riding a bicycle between city and country and climbing the Pyrenees. And you know, it was quite something to wrap your head around what it was like for Virginia Hall to be doing everything that she was doing, along with navigating having one leg.
Yeah, we work with Respectability also, and they have been a participant on a recent panel as well. Lydia, what were some of the challenges that you did run into making this film?
Well, I think I mean, I love this part of movie making, but the challenge was that we were an independent film, and yet we were telling a World War II story. And so in the preparation, it was really about how to, you know, create an emotionally immersive experience, which is what really compelled me to, you know, really get inside the heads of these women and walk in their shoes through this journey that they're in. But at the same time, create the scope of what was essentially, you know, happening to the whole world at the same time. And you know, Kim Jennings, who's our production designer, was, you know, invaluable in terms of, you know, we looked at locations in Philly where we shot a lot of the film. And then we also went to Budapest to put the exterior period French worlds together. And then we had to sort of combine that into one singular world of our movie. But I do, like I said, I love that challenge. It was really the nut to crack on something like this. And I feel, you know, I felt sort of inspired all the way through doing it.
I'm going to take another question from our audience. Beautiful stylized visual style. So curious about how and why, why the choices in a close view of the character's world through the cinematography, and what was the budget or its range?
We can't disclose the budget, so
I was going to say, is that an appropriate question? Madeline would know not to do that, but.
But I will say it is very low budget, and I will say, I can say with ease, it is well under $10 million. So this was a film made on, for a World War II film, you know, made on a shoestring budget.
So as a writer, where did you draw the line between dramatization and historical accuracy with the characters? These individual stories were so complex and deep. I felt like I could watch a movie about each one of these characters, and you did such a great job of pulling their stories together in, you know, a limited amount of time.
Thank you. Yeah, so each of these characters, as you said, can and actually should have a full biopic on them. You know, the fiction I created as the writer is that Noor and Virginia never met in real time. They were 2 years apart in the war. Much like Hidden Figures did, I chose to put them together in time and space. In this case, to allow for a more global story, as Lydia mentioned, on how women of different nationalities and religions united to resist evil, and how their own diversity was crucial to the success. Also, Virginia Hall and Noor Inayat Khan were first in their fields, first female wireless, first female field agent. So that was another reason for putting them together. But then to answer your question about the facts, I mean, if you went and Googled these women, you would see that we're very true to the facts. I had the spy files, I spoke to family. This is the first film here on these women, and I felt a huge responsibility to honor their lives. So while in the context of a fiction film, we certainly take liberties and big liberties, the arc of what happens to each of these three characters, you know, Vera was denied her citizenship papers. That's why it's in the film. You know, Virginia Hall did climb the Pyrenees with Klaus Barbie chasing her. All these things are, she did try to escape twice from you know, prison, and she couldn't. So it was important to be as faithful as possible.
I'm gonna do, if you guys who are posting questions in chat, if you could post them in the Q&A, it would make me look much less disorganized when I'm trying to go back and forth. We had a question about how you handled the physicality of the role, Sarah.
Well, there were many ways we handled the physicality. We started with this kind of big wooden leg, which was attached, which was done with Kim Jennings and props, to my real leg, and then attached to my back, but then my back went out, so that wasn't really a long-term thing. And then we had all different ways, like styrofoam on the leg, etc. And then I did actually rupture my own Achilles tendon on the same leg right after filming, and couldn't walk for a year. Because for a year, even if I wasn't on camera, I was practicing the limp, like it really was a part of her. So I have even more, if that's possible, respect for Virginia Hall and what she must have gone through after that process.
So this film pretty much exemplifies all the things that we stand for at the Institute. I mean, it's such a great example, and we have a question sort of related to that for Lydia. Lydia, you've directed a lot of films centering on strong women. Is there a disconnect within our society about getting men or boys to see these films? And particularly with this film, how do we communicate that even women's stories are compelling and that men will enjoy this film? P.S. My husband and son were so excited to see this film due to the subject matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great thing to talk about, because I think that we've only, recently come into a time where studios and our industry are valuing women's stories. So, we really have to look to, who decides what stories get told to understand why we're seeing what's available. But I think that, women are 51% of the movie-going audience, and the percentages kind of go up when you're on digital platforms as well. So it's taken a while, but I think that, there has been sort of a reckoning that the economic power of women is real, the audience is real, and now we're able to sort of unsilence voices and hear more stories than we have been able to have the privilege to hear before. And I think that, men are coming into this world too, because I see more and more that, men want their daughters to succeed, and they want their daughters to succeed in this world that, women have a little bit more opportunity now. So there's a shift that's happening. It takes a long time for Hollywood to turn the ship around, but I think it might be starting to happen. Yeah,
I think it is as well. And I think it's just so, our ethos is if they can see it, they can be it. And we want these complex characters and this history to be part of the things that our kids are learning. And Sarah, I heard an interview with you on, I think it was like the local CBS affiliate, where you were talking about how you specifically made this film PG-13, which isn't typical for films based on World War II. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? And
sure.
why you did that?
Yeah, most World War II films are rated R, but for the violence, obviously. And it was really important to me to, while honoring the truth of what that time period was like, try and get that PG-13 rating, which we did get, because I wanted this to be an educational tool for younger girls. Exactly that motto: if she can see it, she can be it. These are women who were quote unquote underdogs. They were perceived as underdogs by society: a disabled woman, a Jewish woman, a pacifist, and yet they became extraordinary heroes. And it is about the power of the individual. And so I hope we can use this film as a learning tool. These women aren't yet in our history books. They should be. And not just these women, they should stand for the rest of these stories that still are hidden about women.
So you guys have all the questions. So not only are people excited about the movie, I know the movie was based on The Unexpected Spy, which I read about 6 months ago. Will there be a movie about Virginia's second spy trip to France?
The Unexpected Spy. So this is not based on anything. It's an original screenplay.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So it just happens to be kismet. Great for us, frankly, that all these new books have come out in the past 6 months, when the film was already finished, about Virginia Hall, even about Vera. Noor Inayat Khan just won British, the Blue Plaque in London. So these women's stories are getting out there in a broader way, which I think will help the movie as well.
Uh, how did you find these women in these stories?
So I started kind of looking at the research in Churchill's Secret Army. I'd studied World War II extensively at Williams College, so I knew there were female spies. I was able to get access to the spy files in the archives and honed in on these three women who were firsts in their field. I touched on that already. And just when I knew there was no film about them, it seemed like this was the one to make.
Such a great one. What is it? I mean, we've talked about a lot of this already, but what is it that you kind of want the film viewers to leave with?
Well, I'll let Lydia answer for herself, but for me, I always want to entertain. It's why I pick more commercial genres with my films. I love movies, but the movies that I love the most, the next day or at dinner after, there's something to talk about. And I hope that people walk away from this movie and ask the tough question, what would I do? Because I don't know what I would do. I'm a mom. I mean, would I put my life on the line knowing I had a 6-week life expectancy, a 50-50 chance of survival? I would hope so, but I don't know. And I want to have those tough conversations about how no matter what we believe in, we should stand up for it.
And that one part where they tell them that there's a 50-50 chance of survival, it really does make you reflect on that. It's like, this is amazing what they're doing, but would I do that? Lydia, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. I love the thing that Alice Walker says, that the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. And the reality is that, you know, Vera Atkins was hiring and training women who had something, but no preparation really before they met to go out and do what they were doing. So it really came from a real moral imperative, a real spirit to, you know, go out there and do something, because the world was in such a state they shouldn't be doing anything else except thinking about that. And I think the pandemic has forced us to really think about what we should be spending our time on and what does give our life purpose. So I think there's a real commonality now in terms of taking sort of the inspiration of courage from these women and taking a little bit of that into our own lives and asking ourselves, what do we have the courage to do?
And I don't particularly want to get political, but I mean, those individual actions that we could all take now are so less significant than a 50-50 chance of surviving. And another reason why I think this is so great for this particular time. Can you talk about the casting process? You brought such a great group of people together for this film.
Yeah, we worked with Heidi Levitt, who was a casting director that I had worked with before, and Heidi does a lot of international work, and so we were really interested in casting, French actors, British actors, German actors for these parts, and Heidi did a beautiful job bringing us people that we could really amplify, the script. And Radhika was an actress I had been on a Tribeca jury, and she had gotten Best Actress that year, and I had known about her. Sarah loved her film Parched, and so we were thrilled when she was interested in coming on board. I feel close to Radhika because I've worked a lot in India, and we have a lot of kinship in our sort of Eastern Western worlds. And Stana Katic, who has done 8 seasons of ABC's Castle and now is on her 3rd season of the Amazon series Absentia, was really she really connected to the story about Vera Atkins, and it was exciting to really, work through that story with her. I think it had a deep resonance in terms of the weight and the power and the responsibility of that character.
You guys have so many questions. And obviously I'm the nonprofit person. I'm not the entertainment industry person like our CEO is. So obviously I'm not always the best chooser. Given how big the story could be, what factors influence choosing to tell the story as a feature rather than, say, a limited series?
Well, I would love to tell this as a limited series and a mini series spinoff. I mean, it's money or interest. And so when I started, there was no interest from anyone in making this a mini series. And so I took it upon myself to raise the money and make it an indie. And I certainly really, really hope that it does become a mini series or limited series, because there's just so much more to tell. But my theory as a filmmaker is just that you have to just make the work, do the work you want to see. So the choice was do it within this budget or don't do it.
Right. And that leads to another question, which is how did you raise the money to make the film?
So with all my films, it starts with that genre and finding people who are interested. With Equity, it was financed by men and women on Wall Street in a large portion. With this film, I was lucky enough that Equity did make a profit, and I had a large portion of repeat investors. But then we also had 3 executive producers, Harriet Levy, Joey Horn, and David Hoffman, who not only wrote checks, but also opened up their Rolodex and threw parties. I give investors perks. I send them updates every other week. I make it a real team sport. They get to come to the set, etc. But I'm not gonna lie, I thought it would be easier post-Equity success to raise money, and it was equally so hard, which I found daunting, but it worked. So
I saw Ruth Hart.
That Williams Rolodex really comes in handy.
Oh yeah, that's true. I went to Williams and I write cold letters. Like our executive producer, Joey, I'd never met her. I wrote her a cold letter because she was on the board at Williams, and she's a big Spy fan. And she'd seen and so that was the genesis of, I write a lot of cold letters. I highly recommend it. Usually nothing happens, but once in a while you strike gold.
Yeah.
I think that is I have a long history of producing in my career, and I think that the model of how this film came together is one of the remarkable parts of the story, because it wasn't with a studio, it wasn't with a long-term production company. It was really kind of almost willed into being by us sort of pushing the limit and pushing the envelope all the way with the support of interested people, a lot of interested women. Yeah.
Yeah, some of who are supporters of the Institute as well. So, which is nice to see. Lydia, what advice can you give to other women who are navigating the industry?
Well, I think that, I get asked that question a lot. And I think that the most important thing is, if you want to be a storyteller, is to really lead with your vision, and to really find the story that you feel like is yours to tell, that you have the special voice to tell, and you're going to be able to tell it in a way that nobody else will be. I think those are, finding your unique contribution and really focusing on that and standing by it, is the most important thing.
Let's get to this before I go to any more, because we're coming close to time. So I want to get to this before I look at the other questions that we have. Tell all the people who are watching how they can support the film and what we should be doing to get the word out about it.
Thank you. I love that question. I love it, just because if people want to see more films about women, made by women, it really does come back down to money and making it. So if you like the film, I encourage you to go on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, write those reviews. They really matter, the viewer reviews. Tell your friends. We are in the top 5 on iTunes right now. If you go to a calltospymovie.com, it shows you where we're playing in theaters, on demand, etc. But just share the word, tweet, whatever. It really does make a difference.
And we'll send all the links out to everyone after the call, so it's very easy for you to do it. And I will say, all of you who joined today were given access to a screener. If you really like the film, also go buy it, rent it, do whatever you need to do to. This is from Lauren Applebaum, who is from Respect. Studios and production companies are just now starting to seek out more stories about disability, especially of disabled women or people of color. While this is a film about underdog women who made a huge difference, the disability aspect is important. In 2017, 2018, when you were producing the film, that was not as big of a priority. How do you feel you can use this success of this film to promote more diverse stories of women, including women with disabilities?
I love that question. I think, you know, if the better the film does, the more you have a platform to use to address these issues. 100% agree with everything you said. I think one of the things about Virginia Hall that stood out to me with her disability is not only did she overcome it, you know, to become this huge hero, but we don't show a lot of scenes in the film. Like, she's not an alcoholic. She is someone who, that disability didn't stop her from thriving to be the best she could be. And I think that specifically in the realm of disability, I am missing completely in film. And the diversity question is the same. You know, we just need to show more women, more diverse women on screen as positive role models. And positive doesn't mean they can not complex. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can have complex, varied women who are also positive role models.
Yeah. And what I loved about this so much was, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Lydia.
I was just going to say, you know, groups like Respectability are really important because we're, you know, Sarah and I, we each have two legs. And I was concerned about things like when Sarah wrote that she wanted to bang the wooden leg on because out of frustration. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know if that's disrespectful and I reached out to Lauren and we shared the script, and Lauren shared it with her community as well. And everybody came back and said that would happen, you know, that could happen. You can get that frustrated and angry just because of your, you know, what's holding you back, but you're having that moment and then you go past it. And it was just really all of those, you know, all of the people that we were able to talk to and really understand the emotional place of what it is like, you know, helped us convey that in our storytelling.
This is also just a little tidbit that I think viewers will appreciate here, which isn't in the film, but just a fact that prosthesis in 1930s and 40s were only made for men. And so, you know, much like, you know, studying the heart, you know, they started just studying men's hearts. So not only was Virginia dealing with this wooden leg, but she had a prosthesis that did not fit.
Yeah. And I thought that was very authentic when I didn't even think about that when she slammed the leg. I thought that was, it was just authentic characters where it's not all about that. It's one piece of one thing that they're dealing with and telling their story. So we just have a couple minutes left. I want to open it up to you guys to see if there's anything that I haven't covered that you'd like to touch on about the film. It's a very open-ended question.
I will just say that there's so many women behind the camera in this movie that are women in senior positions, and that Lydia and I both felt equally passionate about hiring more women behind the camera.
Yeah, I think too that I'm in seeing some of a wide range of reaction. Thankfully, a lot of it is mostly positive. But sometimes I hear, and sometimes this is more on the male side, they say, oh, gee, it wasn't violent enough, or not, it could have been more thrilling or more, you know, and I do feel like we came toward this story from an emotional place, from a female place. I think our women come from more of an approach towards transformational leadership, which is very female. And I think that if women can talk about what they experience from the film that really speaks out to them as a female experience, that's interesting, because I think I think that sometimes other genders don't know what that means when we talk about female experience. What does that mean? So I think it would be interesting to hear more conversation about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'm going to wrap with this great last comment in chat, which is from Karen Belfo. Just wanted to say, great cast and crew, great inspiration. When I watched this film yesterday, at times I paused the film so I could go and Google those names and then learn more about their history. So important. It moved me. I believe we need more stories about women. I hope today younger girls and boys can take courses about women in history and hear all about this. I'm sure there are more than just what I've seen. So, I mean, that's it. And I also Googled the people. Thank you for passing the triple. All right. Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for being here today. And everyone will send out more information on where you can watch the film again, where you can share it with other people, and where you can go and write reviews. So I encourage everyone to do that, and I'm so grateful for all of your time.
Thank you.
I'm so happy Sharon came back and
Yes.
is going full tilt. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you,
Yes,
Elizabeth.
thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Jasmine, for organizing. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.